evening, welcome to the Goffstown Planning Board. This is our regular scheduled meeting, and we normally begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Colleen, would you read?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have minutes from July 10th.
I move to approve.
Second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain.
One abstention, motion passes. We will talk about the item number 2 on the action at the end of the meeting. Duly noted, there is no August meeting, August 28th. So Joanne, what's our first new business item?
So the first item is Eversource, and they are here to replace some of their power lines and poles. And these lines and poles are in the wetland area, and they're here for a conditional use permit.
And the purpose of the conditional use permit?
Is to allow them to disturb the wet area temporarily.
Anybody have questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll ask the applicants to, already sitting down, state your name for the record, please.
Thank you. I'm Stephen Riker from GZA Geo Environmental.
I'm Ashley Friend with Eversource Energy, and we also have Caitlin Griffin and Donald Stokes in the crowd with us here tonight.
We'll get their names if they come up to speak.
Tim, we need to accept this as complete.
Sorry, I was asleep.
Yeah, we are,
I make a, Joanne, does this application have any regional impact?
No.
Is the application complete?
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept the application for conditional use permit on maps 5 lot 32-3, map 8 lot 46-29, and map 9 lot 37 as being complete with no regional impact for the purposes of the conditional use consideration.
and I note there are no waivers requested, Joanne?
Correct.
Correct. Second.
All right, motion's on the table to find it's complete and ready to review. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So, could you please make the presentation?
Sure, thank you. As mentioned, we are here tonight to gain approval of a conditional use permit for work within the Wetlands and Surface Water Conservation District here in Goffstown. The project for Eversource in front of you is to replace 5 structures along the Q171 transmission line. There should be a set of plans in your packet, specifically 3 sheets that are aerial plans that I'll refer to here. Proposing to replace 5 structures. One structure is located very close to Locust Hill Road. One structure is located close to Tibbetts Hill Road, and there are 3 structures that are located closest to Black Brook Road.
So these are not in succession, these are in different locations?
That's correct. They are currently wooden structures, they're old, and they are in need of replacement. Timber matting is the method used to get equipment from the roads to the work pads associated with the structures. On sheet 1, you can see our access comes off Locust Hill Road and goes to structure 131. You can also see in pink is the Goffstown wetland buffer. You can see we have no wetland impact associated with replacement of that structure, just wetland buffer impact. On sheet 2, can see our access, which is the dashed yellow line, passes through the buffer and the wetland to get to structure 116. And then on sheet 3, you can see our access comes off Blackbrook Road, goes to structure 105, which is entirely located outside any wetland or buffer. Then the access passes through a buffer and a wetland to gain access to structures 106 and 107.
So for people who are maybe listening or who may be here, who don't know what timber matting is, could you please explain timber matting and why it's your choice?
Sure. So timber mats are 16 foot by 4 foot wide timbers that are iron rod together. And basically that's the best management practice that we use for temporarily impacting wetland resources. It distributes the weight of the equipment that's driving across it, so that way it's minimizing compaction of wetland areas and minimizing impact to vegetation. So those mats that's the first step, is timber matting will be laid, access will be established. We'll also be establishing gravel in upland areas, so that would be wetland buffers as well. So in those areas we would be putting 16-foot wide roads out of gravel and or timber matting if it's through a wetland area. Coming in, having crews drill the hole for the new structure, setting the new pole, transferring the wire from the existing wood pole over to the new steel structure, and then they can remove the existing wood structure once that wire is transferred over. And then once that's complete, they pull out the timber matting and restore the area. For our work pads, we permit for 100 by 100 work pad areas. Those are the boxes that you'll see around the structure locations. So those areas, if it's in an upland, we restore that to approximately a 30 by 60 foot work pad area, and that's for future maintenance and in cases of emergencies, so we can continue to get a bucket truck in there in those instances. For areas and structures that are within wetlands, and that all of that matting would be removed.
We've talked about your gravel roads here at prior meetings and how we wondered what you do with them after the fact. What do you do with the gravel roads when you're done?
The gravel roads are intended to be left in place within the easement, so they are monitored throughout restoration of the project. So even after matting is pulled, we monitor under our SWIP inspection, so Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. We file an EPA construction general permit. So we're doing weekly inspections out there throughout stabilization, which means 85% vegetative cover for areas that have been disturbed. And that would include just making sure those gravel areas are stable, they're not eroding, and the areas that were disturbed soil have been revegetated.
Well, it was my statement prior meeting that I think they're ugly when you leave those roads along the power lines. They look like scars in the woods. And we talked in the past with your representatives about possibly doing some sort of loam and seed on top of them that would support the weight of the vehicles, but it would restore the look of the woodland and not see the gray scarred roads all over the countryside. And I wondered on your opinion on that.
So we do work with underlying landowners who own the parcels on this right-of-way in particular. We have easement rights for erecting, constructing, and maintaining the right-of-way, constructing that road, by extension. So if individual landowners have requests for that, then we work with them. As far as widespread efforts to add loam and seed, that's not something we typically do and not something we're looking to do. I will say that over time, nature does have a way of reclaiming, and so it might not be year 1, but year 2 or 3, you'll start to see vegetation growing in even through a gravel road.
I'll look forward to seeing that. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple things. As Ashley mentioned, the timber matting is removed when the construction is complete. For this particular application, our temporary wetland impact was 2,503 square feet, and our buffer impact is 17,757 square feet. A couple other notes about permitting, state permits. We filed a wetland statutory permit by notification for each town. You should know that not only does this line run through Goffstown, but it runs through Dunbarton and Bow, I believe. So there are structural placements also going on in those municipalities as well. New Hampshire Fish and Game has provided us with comment. We coordinate that with them during preparation of applications and submittals. New Hampshire Fish and Game for, I wanna make sure I get the structure correct. So it is the structure located close to Locust Hill Road, structure 131. It's on your sheet 1. We have a time of year restriction to do work there between October 16th and March 31st. And that is because the wetland directly adjacent to that structure is a vernal pool. Some other just minor construction notes. Erosion controls are used during construction. They're also monitored regularly while the site is under construction to make sure they're performing correctly.
I'll just add, Steve, to your
Yeah, go
comment.
ahead.
So we did receive final best management practices from New Hampshire Fish and Game. It's pretty hot off the press, so you probably.
Oh, okay.
I know you're
Good.
covering for Lindsay tonight. So we did receive our final best management practices, and there is a time of year for all of the work on this project. So we are executing that, the entirety of the scope across all 3 towns within the October 2nd to March 31st time of year window.
For all of them?
Yep.
Is that for all of them?
Correct, yep.
So this is winter work.
Yep. They call it the inactive turtle season, reptile season, so.
Question, is the Locust Hill one the only one with the vernal pool? It looks like it from the maps.
That is correct.
We will be submitting a statutory permit by notification in the coming weeks, so the town will get a copy of that as well. We have filed our alteration of terrain permit, so the town has already received that. And the only item that was open on that was the Fish and Game BMPs, which now that we've received that, the state has that, and we're expecting that permit to be issued pretty shortly here.
Question?
Okay.
Could you do me a favor and run through your photo log and just orientate me as to what we have in front of us? And I would like you to also address the wetland function value of it, evaluation form, because I'm sure those numbers correlate to
Yep.
a location, but I
Sure.
haven't figured it out yet.
Okay, so let's start with the photo log. So in the photo log, there is a description under each photo.
Yeah?
And the photo 1 says, looking southwesterly at the existing access towards Q171 structure 131. So that would be, this photo is taken approximately, right on the shoulder of Locust Hill Road. If you look at sheet 1, there's already sort of an access road there now. We're going to utilize that same location for this work. Photograph 2 says, looking westerly at the proposed work pad for Q171 structure 131. So westerly. Yep, so if you walked up that access road and you look directly at the structure, that would be your view.
Yeah.
Photo 3, looking southwesterly at the proposed work pad location adjacent to wetland GW38. So, again, on sheet 1, our wetlands are numbered, and that particular wetland is GW38. You can see the text right underneath the work pad.
Oh, so that's a wetland in the green area? You've only delineated the wetlands in the right-of-way?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and these photos are noted as being taken in June, so obviously the vegetation is gonna look substantially different between October and March.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How long do you expect to be in each of these sites? Or is it
So-
done in stages, so you can't?
It's done in stages, yeah, so there'll be a civil crew, a drilling crew, a line crew, and then a civil crew again, to come back in and perform the restoration work. So when it's all said and done, I'd, say several weeks at each of these locations.
Okay. All right, thank you. And again, then to photo 4, that deals with the location on sheet 2 of 3, correct?
So photograph 4, looking southwesterly at the proposed timber matted access at wetland GW 30.1. So let me just find the right page.
Sheet 2.
So it's on sheet 2 of 3. The green area that you see closest to Tebbets Hill Road, that's wetland GW 30.1, and it says looking south westerly. You can see the wires in the photo associated with the two structures. The structure on the left is the one that will be replaced.
Okay,
So the view is from almost directly underneath the line there.
okay.
I have a question on that entrance. So, just, I guess it's kind of southeast of that on Tibbets, there's an existing we'll call it a curb cut. There's a paved apron that accesses the field there. And I was hoping that that could be used instead of cutting a temporary access in instead. And I almost see it actually having your approach to number 115, or 116, sorry. It might get you out of the wetland and just through the buffer as well, because the contours don't seem to change much from the wetland to the buffer.
So we had actually looked at that in the field before we put all this on paper. We do extensive constructability field walks with the engineers, project manager, construction representative, environmental, of course. So the reason it's shown where it is because there's fencing, and that's indicated on the plans. You can see the X'd out hatched areas. So this area that we have shown for access is the most direct, least impactful access point.
But there's already a driveway there, is what I'm trying to say, to the south. And now you wanna make another one basically next to there's a paved apron there to access the field.
Well, we won't be paving.
I know, but
Yeah.
that's exactly my issue, is Eversource never paves their entrance and it beats up the shoulder of our road. So if you could use the paved access instead of punching a new hole in, possibly damaging the shoulder of the road, I'd much prefer that instead. And the same goes for Blackbrook, the entrance on Blackbrook, there's a large paved driveway that's already there, and looking at the map, you're not showing using that as the entrance point as well. So I
Is that paved driveway the landowners?
Can we
I
not
have
talk
no
about the
idea.
next one? Can we
sorry. Yeah.
stay on 116 for now? So Scott, can you clarify for me, if I'm looking at the dotted yellow line that comes out to the Tibbets Hill Road there?
if you go down the page, there's
Down
already
the
a paved
page,
apron
there's a
there.
paved apron.
Yeah.
We had looked at that,
The fencing.
yeah.
I guess I
We'd
need
have to
clarification,
figure out
because I didn't.
There's a gate, I don't know if I'd call it fencing, I think there's it's like a field entrance with a gate, it's probably for the owner to access the property.
Yeah, if you look at photograph 4, it's a little bit tough to see, but you can see a dirt pile there.
Yeah,
It's actually a manure pile.
yeah,
That's fun.
I believe the abutting landowner or the underlying landowner, she has horses. She also has a bunch of fencing there, and you can see she also has Christmas trees that she's planted. So that's why in a garden area there that's fenced, so that's why we're avoiding that area with the road.
This is
Right.
an existing driveway with an opening gate.
Can I see
just
that? I'm sorry.
prefer that be used versus
So I think,
creating a new entrance, because Our
It
director
may-
gave you guys permission to not have to do paved aprons, and it's
Right.
kind of
Backfire.
a sore spot for some of us in
Yeah.
the office, so
What happens
Yeah,
if they
and-
damage the road, Scott?
they're supposed to repair it.
Do we
And
take pictures
It's a
before and after?
RSA.
Yes, and we're happy to do a bond as well on the road to ensure that it's protected and in the same or better condition when we leave. As far as using this, I think it could be an issue with the structure that's immediately there because, so 115 is directly in front of that entrance, and I don't think that the equipment would,
There's a
It
decent
could
amount
be a
of space
potential-
between the two.
because they can't drive between the H-frame structure, they
Yeah,
have to go,
there's a
around.
decent distance from the fence to that,
yeah.
so I think they could, make an S turn around it.
Yeah,
It's
I know we had looked at it in the field and we initially had it shown there,
Okay.
and then it was discussed amongst the
Okay.
engineers and the construction guys in the field as far as safety and proximity. They have to worry about approach distances and heights to wires and whatnot, so,
So that's the paved apron.
So how difficult, Scott, is it for you to calculate the amount for bond for the entrances?
Well, I mean, that's not the difficult part, it's just.
Well, if they want approval, it's gotta be part of the motion.
Yeah, I think it should be.
Yeah,
Well, it's standard driveway bond, Scott, right?
no, we don't really have a standard driveway bond, to be honest.
Thought we had a number for when you take a bond out for if you want to do anything in the right of way.
Oh, that's the street excavation, but that's the calculation based off the size of the excavation in the right of way.
I thought there was a hard number for a straight up.
All right, well, consider
Okay.
while we discuss. All right, thank you for the explanation on the work for pole 116 there, and the photo 4, and then the next one is, the next two,
Yep, photo 5 is also of structure 116.
yeah, yep, okay. And then we go to Blackbrook Road, map 3, sheet 3. Which appears to have more issues for entrance than the others. So photo 6 is showing what?
Yep, photo 6, looking southerly at the proposed access towards Q171 structure 105.
Okay,
So southerly,
so this photo is showing 105, 109, or 104, 108?
photograph 6 is showing structure 105 and 109. 105 is the one to be replaced, 109 is not.
Okay.
Seven, looking southeasterly at the proposed work pad location for Q171 structure 105.
Okay,
And then photograph 8, looking northerly at the proposed timber matted access at wetland GW26. GW26 is the wetland in between 106 and 105. And that's looking up the hill at those two structures, which would be 106 and 110. 106 would be on the left, 110 would be on the right.
It's probably an ignorant question, but I'll ask it anyways. So the blue line is already a pre-existing access. I assume that's already gravel road on 3 of 3? And then the blue dot, or the yellow dotted line is where you'll put the new gravel, and then the wider,
I think the blue line is the power line.
the dashed line from their access off of Black Brook Road.
the dash lines, I think, are the power lines.
Right.
Because that's where the towers are directly on it.
It's existing access.
Yeah, right
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Existing access, and then the yellow dash line, that's where you put in the new gravel, is that correct?
Yep,
correct.
Okay, and then the timber matting is the wider yellow crisscross.
That's correct.
Okay,
Right.
It's yellow, not the orange, so within the buffer, we're still proposing to gravel that area. It's just within the wetland crossing itself, GW 26, sorry. I know the colors are a little similar,
Wow.
the actual
Yeah.
wetland versus the buffer. I just wanna make that distinction.
Okay, so you're gonna gravel basically all the way from here, all the way in,
All the way to that, yellow area
so right
of
here.
GW 26.
Yep,
Okay.
till you get to the wetland edge. Yep.
So basically all through the pink you're graveling as well.
Correct.
All through the pink is timber matting, I think.
No,
That's they're saying that it's,
This is gravel road, the yellow is timber matting.
that's what I wanted to have clarity on. So even
It's
though
hard
it
to
says
see the
wetland
difference.
buffer impacts, they're saying they're graveling through that.
It says approximate wetland buffer impact.
So for clarification, the conditional use permit is for the 2,500 square feet of temporary wetland impact, and that 2,500 square feet is where you're using the timber matting. But there's an additional 17,757 square feet of buffer impact. Joanne, that is also part of the conditional use permit?
yes.
So it's for the temporary wetland impact plus the additional 17,000 square foot. And that 17,000 square feet is where we're talking about gravel that's being placed but not being removed. So that gravel is remaining in the wetland buffer.
That's correct.
So, you know, that's an issue, isn't it? Leaving
Oh, that's
the gravel road in the buffer itself?
Well, that's why they're asking for the conditional use, and I think that's why we
Well, the
discussed
conditional
last
use
time.
permit allows them to do it. After they're done with it, they should be required to remove it.
I believe that's what we, was it 2 years ago, I think we had a similar.
And we talked about this once, and
Talked
you
about
fell on deaf ears, apparently. You know, all these nice pictures you gave us of all the GZA environmental, they look nice without the roads through the green area. All right, any other comments, questions before I, open a public hearing? Do you have anything else you'd like to present?
Would you like me to address the function values?
Yes, there are
Sorry.
charts that are in
You
your
had asked
packet
about
that
that.
I would like you to address.
Yep, so there's, it looks like there are 6. In the upper, sort of the upper left-hand corner of that chart is the wetland ID.
Right.
Obviously, the wetland ID corresponds to a wetland where we evaluated functions and values. This function and value methodology is called the highway methodology. It's developed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's the commonly used methodology in New Hampshire to determine functions and values of wetlands. The functions and values are listed on the left-hand side of the page. There are 13 of them. And then if you just follow the chart, capability basically means is the wetland performing the function or not. The rationale reference corresponds to a number of questions that the wetland scientist basically answers. And if the wetland scientist answers yes, then the number of the question gets written in the box. And then the summary is just general comments that the scientist may look at and use for his or her assessments. And then the far right-hand column is principle. What principle means is the wetland performing this function at a high level? You know, is the function that, is the wetland performing this function at a high level? Therefore, it would be a principal function of the wetland. You can see GW 38 is performing flood flow alteration as a principal function, sediment toxicant retention, nutrient removal, production export, wildlife habitat.
Okay, and GW 38, just so I'm clear, is the Locust Hill Road one, is that correct? This is where, I just wanna make sure, because if I look at sheet 1 of 3, I see GW 38.
Yep, GW 38 is the wetland, off from Locust Hill Road, close to structure 131. So, you know, for, just as an example, wildlife habitat, it's capable of performing that function. It's also a principal function of the wetland. And, you know, the comment in the summary box is the wetland contains a vernal pool. So the vernal pool certainly makes wildlife habitat a principal function of that wetland.
Okay, I just figured out the 38. So. So GW 25, this is where I couldn't find a 25. The GW 38 I found on sheet 1, so I'm assuming that is,
25 is at the roadside of Black Brook Road.
Yeah, it's
Headed south.
extremely small, wetlands.
Just beyond the gate. There's a symbol there for a lock indicating a gate. And then you can
oh,
see the-
okay,
yeah.
I see, there it is down there, okay. And so, oh, it wasn't by the tower, that's why I didn't notice it. All right, so 26 on the other side is also black. Okay, now I understand.
Yep.
All right, and then I'm assuming I'm gonna find the same for 30 and 31 being Tibbetts Hill, let's see. 30, I couldn't find these when I looked at
So
it at home.
30,
Okay,
yeah, 30
Okay.
is on the north side of Tibbetts Hill. It is not being proposed to be impacted.
Right.
30.1 is on the south side of Tibbetts Hill Road. And we have the 1,454 square feet of approximate temporary wetland impact
okay,
that will be
thank you.
temporarily timber matted.
Sorry, I didn't figure that out at home.
It's okay.
I apologize.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, I'm gonna open the public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on this subject, please come up, state your name for the record. You folks from Eversource, would you please move back to the gallery?
Yep.
We own the property as you go up Lucas Hill Road.
Wait, sir.
On the right
Wait.
side.
Hold on a minute,
Where
Doctor.
Eversource has.
Sir?
the lines.
Did-
You got.
No, 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 you can come up
on
now,
you
you come up and
You
sit.
gotta give us your, you gotta sit down,
Yeah,
give us your
David
name for the
Corbett,
record and your address,
My
please.
wife Judy,
You need to
and-
say it again, because somebody's gonna type this from,
David Corbett, Corbit.
And your address, sir?
What?
Your address,
78 Locust Hill Road.
thank you.
So as you go up the hill, we own on the right side where the lines are. And I'm not real clear, I'd like to be clear on exactly what you're gonna do on that side, in our area.
Well, David, how this works is you state what you would want, your comment is, and we'll address it with the applicant to come up.
can
and-
somebody
well,
show him a map so he can
Yeah,
try to
my
identify
comment
where
will
his
depend
property
on
is?
what I see.
He doesn't know where they are related to his house.
Oh, I know where they are, I just don't know what the project is going to be. Somebody tell me that?
I'm not sure if we're allowed to speak yet. I just want to make sure.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I have printed out the full application. It's not as large as Eversource's copies, but I'll be glad to bring up the copy sheets number 1 if you would like to look at the picture. They're printed on 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, look at that.
I'm gonna solve the whole problem, and I'm gonna give Dave my copy, right here.
There's a plan set right here. If you could point out where your house is, that would be helpful. So that north
This
is
is
to
Locust
the
Hill,
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
so our house is here.
Okay.
Public hearing like this.
We own,
Well,
Nope,
the,
nope, the other way.
I'll just go with, they usually bring a map and put it on the blue side, they
and
didn't.
that's,
Yes.
okay.
Yep. It's just a single pole there.
Yeah,
that's
it just
shown.
goes, yeah, this one pole.
This side of the road.
Yeah, there's some.
Joanne,
So we don't have any large maps?
don't they usually?
They're just a single pole.
They do, but there's
There's a lot of
That's-
times.
Yeah, so that's just my question.
Thank you.
My question is ended now.
Okay, that's what we're gonna have to do.
Okay, anyone else would like to speak on this matter? Please come up.
Thank you, Gus. It's Steve McCray, trustee for McCray Family Realty Trust. We'll be looking at sheet 3 because we're discussing structures 105, we replaced
Before
106
you
and 107.
continue, was everyone clear on his name, because I barely
Yes.
heard it?
Yeah, Gus, it's Steve McCray,
Okay.
trustee for McCray Family Realty Trust. So on this one, I see it as sheet 3 because we're discussing here structures 105, 106, and 107. I'm just a little confused on looking at the application that I guess Eversource isn't a corporation? They checked no, I'm just confused. Because I also noted some other discrepancies in the technical work done by the engineers who presented in these photographs. So I have met with Eversource already, and we walked this. We actually walked it from Blackbrook Road. And you can actually see in this photograph it's not gravel that remains, so that's offensive. It is a processed material that they put down. There's excellent gravel that was underlying this area. In the past project, their contractor was very excited to see the gravel, and I'm very interested to see how much they gravelled and removed from the property. They did use our gravel to build their pads and retaining structure. That's not in the easement. They also reached outside of the right-of-way to take stones, and they also, where you see this marked stone wall, basically removed the stones, and those ended up in a retaining wall, rather than them bringing in their own gabion boxes or whatever to build a retain and bring their own fill in. They then proceeded to leave the crushed stone behind, granite or schist, probably a mix of that. It is not gravel. So it still has not regrown. We were offered, and they said, well, we could put a thin layer of material that would grow of organic matter. I said, well, yes, that would be good. We need to do that. I do know, as a matter of fact, on Fish and Game owned property, it's done. It was not done. You can go by Blackbrook Road and see it. That was not done. They also said they would return 30 stones. They did not do that at all. That was not done. So then as we...
Excuse me, could I just ask for a question for clarification for the applicant's presentation? What time period was this last work done? When was that, Chris?
It was either last summer or just the summer before.
Okay,
They were in here.
with the last application,
Application,
so,
right.
okay, all right.
I
Thanks.
also know in another area of wetlands that's actually in between Portage Road and Black Brook, the physical Black Brook, I asked specifically about those and was told to my face by their contractors and Eversource personnel, they didn't know anything about it, they weren't doing anything about it. It was not restored. The mat material they picked up, if there was leftover and broken pieces, they have discharged their waste outside the right-of-way onto our property. They did not mat over the stone walls. They put mats down because they had to proceed immediately into wetlands with standing water, even in August at that time. And the prior contractor had taken the top course of stones off. They then filled over those stones, and now their processed material is covering the stones from that stone wall. And they have not repaired it. They have so damaged that stone wall that people are now driving regular four-wheel drive vehicles down their highly processed road and right across. They also deliberately left a stone in the middle of an ATV trail. We had come to I'd say a quiet peace with the ATV people. They stayed in the trail and did not damage the evergreens, specifically the juniper, and they stayed out of the water so we didn't get to it. Deliberately, there was a stone placed right in the middle of that trail, so now all the ATV people, they just drive around it. So they've increased the negative impact from their work, from doing that specifically. So that still hasn't been corrected, and I asked the folks about that, and of course, everything wasn't my watch, I don't know anything about it. So as we walked, if you look at, you're right, on photograph number 6, it looks very nice because they walked past their processed material to then take that picture. It looks horrendous. I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. So then when we get to photograph number 7, that's the base where the poles are now. They're gonna move that further back, that whole area, and probably they're gonna remove that. I don't know why they'd be removing that crest, but that was implied. And then photograph number 8, it does not do it justice. This is the area where we're talking about on sheet 3, where it's very confusing that they were going to put this processed road through the buffer and only put a very small map across the wetlands. This is extremely steep terrain going up here. This picture does not do it justice. It also this picture is not looking northerly. So it leads one to question the technical capabilities and credibility of the contractor. They also do not need to cross that wetland. In the walk with the Eversource folks, I've identified 2 different paths that they could use that in the past they have had their contractors use when they're maintaining this, so they do not have to disturb that wetland at all. So I guess in summary would say they are loose with their language in describing how they will leave the property. They lie to the landowner, make promises, and do not carry them out. Only in one structure did they do that. That was in structure 110. That was replaced that last section through. And that 111 and 110, and that was one individual from their contractor and their civil side that did that. He was a different person that did structures 108 and 104. And then for structure 112, they used their maths again, which then when they took them, they did not clean up any of the debris. There was no, of course it's not a wetland, it's a hayfield, there was no textile mat put down beneath the mats, and they did not clean up any of the debris left from their mats, nor their plastic bottles, nor their tags from their Kuhn's rubber glove protectors, nor the shavings and the tailings from the drilling the holes in the steel pole. It was a mess, and it was blowing outside of the right-of-way and into a hayfield. And currently, we still cannot hay that whole section of the hayfield because they have left so much debris. And I showed it's hard to see the flags now, and debris sites, as opposed to individual sections of debris, were flagged because we ran out of flags. So we had to go back to flagging concentrations of debris to go over 100 concentrations that they did not clean up. They did not replace and repair stone walls nor fence lines. So from that aspect, I would, if it's possible, I would ask that the board deny their petition, their application for what they're identifying as GW 26 on the wetlands on Form 3, because there is absolutely no need to go through there other than to raise the cost of the project. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on this matter? Okay, then I will close the public hearing. Board members?
Well, I'm a little disappointed in the presentation. Normally, you all come with big maps so people can see and people in the room can see what you're talking about. I notice we don't even have big maps. in front of us. Based on the comments of the last person and concerns about the road edge, I am going to suggest something that this board hasn't done in a very long time. But I think there needs to be a site walk before I consider consideration of the Blackbrook Road piece at a minimum. And the other ones seem less problematic, but it does make me wonder what condition those sites are in, given that I'm sort of going in memory bank, but based on Mr. McRae's representation, my guess is that the other sites recently had work done too, in conjunction with the previous conditional use permit we granted. But if I've got landowners in town who can't use fields the way they want to because of debris left, I think I have an obligation to walk the site. And that also impacts, we talked briefly about the issue of road edge and bond. If we have a question as to the applicant's ability to clean up, and it might cause me to actually read the easement to what they're allowed to do, it might raise questions as to the bond in its entirety for the work. That's my take on it.
Anybody else comment? Bill?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I know in the past when we had them in the last time, there was quite a bit of discussion from various property owners that had complaints with the work that was done in the past. So I think sidewalk is probably appropriate and the least that we can do at this point. And again, I'm very disappointed that we don't have the large maps, because at least we could have a large map on there. The people that are here, that came to the public hearing, could see it, and also on people on GTV have no clue what we're talking about here. They have no clue what 110 is, 109 is, where the things are coming off the roads. No clue of where this is in town. So I'm a little disappointed with that myself on the presentation.
So this would have to be continued then with a site walk scheduling to September the 11th, because that's our first available meeting.
I can't do the work till October anyways.
Doesn't matter.
Is there any comment on the comment about the errors in the application? Being a
Well,
corporation?
I think it's up to the applicant to listen to what the comments were from the public comment side, and to take public comment seriously, and if there's documented errors, I'm sure that Mr. McRae will relay them to them. Feel certain he would be happy to relay any errors that he found with them, and then they could have a chance to address them. They could also bring large maps to the next meeting that they can put on the poster board, so the people in the audience and people on TV could see what's going on, and you could actually point to the structures. I don't think we need photo representations for the poster board, but certainly the maps would have been helpful for Mr. Corbett to be able to see what was going on with the discussion.
Tim,
Go ahead.
do you also want to take a site walk over by the area that Scott was referring to, by Tibbetts Hill?
Well, I think if we're gonna schedule a site walk, we should, Joanne, Barbara mentioned the driveway edge business, so that would include,
All of the
All
sites.
30 sites.
sorry?
All 30 sites.
I think all three sites would be appropriate. If we're gonna look at one, we'll look at all
I
three.
have a bad sciatica. I can't believe I just suggested that.
The other two are close to
Bring
the
your
road.
horse.
I'll bring my horse. Can I do it on horseback?
Anybody else have anything before we, I'll ask for a motion to continue this application?
Well, I think we ought to set a date for the site walk before we close it up.
So,
I think if people may not be able to commit at this time to site walk, I'm not sure I have their calendars in front of them, do they?
I think we need to set it. It's gonna be a public meeting. It's gotta be set.
Well, then, I'm gonna allow you to set the date then,
Oh,
Barbara. Based on your schedule.
well, a weekend, this is, if we're gonna do all three sites, this is gonna take a few hours. So while it is late now, though summer is over, the light is ending earlier, it probably needs to be done on a weekend. And first, I suppose with the chair's permission, I should ask the landowner whether he will consent to a site walk one day on the property.
Yes, and I've ridden horse across that many times, it is a nice route. Feel free.
Will the Corbetts consent to a site walk on their land?
Yes.
Okay. And we will notify the owner of the other land. So, you know, unfortunately, I am gone the next weekend. The next weekend is Labor Day weekend, and I'm assuming people don't want to do it on Labor Day weekend, which leaves the weekend of the 6th or the 7th before the meeting on the 11th, which doesn't give a lot of time to resolve any issues, but that's what we have. Unless you want to try to get it in at the end of the day, one day, but, you know, people have issues getting from jobs.
I think it needs to be a Saturday morning.
Well, then, Saturday morning the 6th,
Of November?
September.
September.
Really pushing it out there.
I want to get a little more time.
You're like,
Saturday,
What time?
9?
Probably need to start at 9, and do you want to go through in order or of the sheets, or, because they're going to have to notice this.
Well, we start where we're going to begin. We'll pick where we're going to begin. And that way you can notice where we're going to
That
begin
location at 9 o'clock.
as the starting point for the trek.
All right, somebody else can pick.
What about the entrances?
I think Blackbrook's probably the biggest
Yeah.
walk,
So maybe we should do
because
that
that's where there's
first.
issues, yeah.
So starting at Blackbrook.
I don't have my kid's soccer schedule yet, so I may not be able to make it to this.
I understand.
so we're going Blackbrook, and then you would go to Tibbetts, and then Locust. So basically go in reverse order.
3, 2, 1.
Do we have problems with the Tibbetts one? Any issues with the Tibbetts one that we need to go there?
Wait,
That's
that's
the
the
one Scott wanted you to look at.
Oh, that's the driveway one?
Yeah.
Scott?
Yes, Tibbetts was the one where I suggested.
So
we
what
use
time
the
does soccer
existing
start?
ones. I don't know.
You don't even know the start time.
Well, I've got two kids playing soccer,
Oh.
and their games are always on Saturdays.
So he's gonna be living
One's
in
United,
Lionsfield
one's
Walk,
Tri-Town.
so.
Can
I'm
we
insisting on one
video
of the
you
games.
in to the walk?
I could do that, sure.
He can always write his report, bring it to the meeting for the driveway edge
Yeah.
stuff, because that's very defined edge of road issues. It's,
Well, I want to make sure that we know where
Okay.
you're talking about and where they're talking
Sure.
about. Okay.
I'll try to be there.
Is it possible you have somebody else in your place from the department?
I'd hate to do that to Eric, but I could.
To Eric?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen him. What's
So
up
we're
to-
starting at Black Brook.
Yes.
Yes, and then moving to Tibbetts, and then Locust. So 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
so when you post the notice, Joanne, that'll be the order we're gonna go to the sites.
Okay.
We won't put time frames on the second two, only beginning at Blackbrook at 9.
Right, okay.
All right. And everyone's invited to come, including Eversource, if you'd like to attend.
Motion to continue this application to September 11th.
Second.
Just as a comment on procedurally for the site walk before we vote on this, there is no discussion that is taking place at the site walk. The site walk is a meeting of this board to view and see the site, but there will be no discussion or decisions made, but it is a public site walk.
We won't debate the application, we're just gonna go look at what the conditions are to verify for our next discussion.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay, so motion on the table to continue this to September the 11th. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstention, motion passes. All right, Joanne, what's our second application?
So the second application is for map 4, lot 87-6, which is at the intersection of Bog Road and Arbor Circle. And this is for the Woodland Village project that you had discussed a few weeks ago regarding the $12,000 that they would like turned back over to them because it is not needed due to the, so initially it was a condition of approval when the project was owned by Jim Coughlin, and it was proposed to be a condominium. And since then, the owners had provided a drainage maintenance agreement, which has been recorded at the Hillsborough County Registry of Deeds. And at that time, they had, when Dakota, I'm competing against the noise.
Yeah.
Tim's about to do his speech.
At that time that Dakota came in to make some amendments when they first took over, the board had asked that all of the conditions of approval from the Coughlin plan be continued over to the Dakota plan, as well as the changes that Dakota had made. And at that time, Dakota had stated that they were changing over the type of ownership from a condo to a single entity. However, it just wasn't caught that type of maintenance was needed for that type of project since it's going to be individually owned. Whatever problems that they may have with their drainage will be the responsibility of the people that own it currently, which is Anagnostic Companies. The roads within the site itself is completely private, and the roads within the site are private, and the drainage system is completely private, so the town would have no responsibility. So that's about it for now. You should probably know that the money is, I believe, currently held by the Bank of Boston, which they are one of the loan people that have loaned the money for Phase 2. Phase 1 is completely finished as of right now, and they're currently working on Phase 2 and trying to get that completed by September.
Questions for staff? Scott, have you been able to go out there and have a look at anything? Do you know what the present condition of everything is out there by chance?
Is this application complete?
Yes, and there's no regional impact.
I make a
Thank you.
motion that we accept the application for an amended site plan review for map 4, lot 87-6, finding that the application is complete and there's no regional impact.
Second.
Thank you for that, folks. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. So, we're back to my question for Scott. Do you know what the current condition of anything is out there?
The site is near completion. There's a little bit of landscaping cleanup and a few other items.
Well, we're specific to the $10,000 deposit. Is that what we're talking about, Joanne?
The drainage is completely installed and appears to be working properly. I haven't thoroughly inspected the drainage. We just had VHB conduct a final site walk, and they didn't note any issues with the drainage.
So you've done a memo actually recommending this, is that correct?
Yes, it's attached on the back of the staff report.
Scott, way back when this was first proposed, I thought I remembered a vortex style system was gonna be down there. Did that ever get changed?
They are, it's not a vortex, they're
Something else?
The ADS Storm Tech systems, the yellow.
Yeah, but I thought there was something that was gonna be put in to remove the contaminants prior to it going in. That's the thing that fails. I wonder if that was put in or not. Having recommend. I know they came back for a change at one point.
I'm not sure. Honestly, the drainage went in before I was here. I
Okay.
could go back and look at the
No, that's fine. Maybe the applicant,
previous inspections.
the applicant can enlighten me.
The VHB did a few inspections during the drainage installation. So I may be able to access them here.
No, that's all right, Scott, you don't have to. I just was curious. No big deal. All right, any other questions for staff before I ask the applicant to speak? Joanne, there's two numbers in here. On the condition 5D, it's a $10,000 escrow deposit, but then in the memo, it's a $12,000 escrow deposit. Is one correct and one wrong?
So when Coughlin's plan was originally approved as the condo, it was 10,000. And then in the condition of approval, back in 2000, it was around 16, 17, 18, when Dakota took over, they had told the town engineer at the time, it was Sarah, to increase it based on the
Okay.
cost price index from 2009, so it added an additional
Thank you,
approximately $2,000.
thank you. Anybody else before I ask the applicant to speak? Please, your name for the record?
Good evening, Trevor Deanda with Meridian Land Services here on behalf of the applicant. I guess, just as, kind of reiterate what Joanne has already said, but we're seeking to amend one of the approval conditions from the 2018 approval for this to remove the escrow requirement for the drainage system because the ownership situation of the project has changed since that original approval, and the drainage maintenance agreement essentially, puts the onus on the owner to maintain, at no cost to the town, so that money's not pertinent anymore, is kind of the basis of the request. As to your question, Mr. Chair, about the vortex system for the stormwater, I guess I'm not sure exactly if that particular system was specified, but in reviewing the plans, it seems like the StormTech systems were designed with some sort of pre-treatment isolator row that would pre-treat the stormwater, and a couple of the systems were more detention that then outlet to an infiltration, a surface infiltration basin. And again, from what I can tell, I've kind of just come into this project as well. It looks like it's constructed per plan.
Okay.
So happy to answer any questions.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Do we have a memo from you, Scott? Is that what it is right here from the Public Works Department? Yes. it's
Yeah,
from
this
you.
is from the previous time they were here. So I just
How long
kind
ago
of
was that?
read it. Looks like that June 27th was when I dated it, so it was a few weeks ago.
And the drainage maintenance agreement was executed as to your satisfaction?
Yeah, it's our standard language that we, it's basically a standard document that just gets filled in with the specific information of the site, the owner, and then the type of drainage on site.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, I'm gonna open the public hearing. Anybody wishes to speak on this matter, please come up and state your name for the record. Sit down, please.
Hello, my name is Sharon McLemore. I'm at 31 Evergreen Drive. Forgive my ignorance, I just purchased my home, so I received the notification of today's meeting as an abutter to the property. I am unaware of what impact this storm drainage system or anything has to my property. However, we received a certified letter today to the previous owner from Meridian Land Services. Obviously, I didn't open it, but it was direct communication to the previous owner, and I'm unsure what that is in regards to, especially with coincidental of the meeting today. I did reach out to my neighbors on both sides. My left neighbor is further away from their arbor circle to the rear of my property, and then my right neighbor is closer to theirs, and neither of them have received any mail. So I'm just concerned or want to understand how all of this project or removed from them for their escrow affects my property, if at all. And if the requirement for the drainage system is removed from them, is there any other follow-up with the new owners or how that works?
Just so you know, if you are a direct abutter,
Yes.
if your property line touches the parcel,
In any point.
At any point, even if it's a small piece in the corner, you are considered a direct abutter.
Okay.
And therefore, you are notified by law of our meetings.
I got the
There's-
letter, that's
There's
why I brought
no-
it with me.
There's normally no intent to alarm you.
Okay.
It's just to notify you that something's going on.
That's alarming.
One of your neighbors is sitting behind you who is well-versed in all this, and if you had any questions, she can answer them better than I can.
Okay,
So, and we welcome you to come tonight. But if, the main thing about drainage is if you are a direct butter and you are downstream physically from a drainage system, then you would have cause to think about it and be concerned.
sure.
If you are upstream from a drainage system, then you probably don't have any concerns about,
Right.
about
And my
the
recollection is your address would be upstream.
Okay,
Yeah,
very good. Like I said, I was
everything's uphill.
not prepared with the review and everything, so I just wanted to make sure we were,
Well, welcome to the planning board, and we're always looking for alternates.
thank you for having me. That's it for me.
Thank you for coming. Bill?
But the only thing that we're dealing with is their escrow account.
It's money.
It's money.
Sure.
It's got nothing to do with the drainage system itself. It's just the amount of money that's been held.
So I guess my follow-up question is, do I need to continue to watch? Is there more that may potentially
Well, you're
require
welcome
me to be
anytime you
involved?
want.
It's a lot of fun.
If
But if I'm upstream, I have
If
very
there's,
little worry, so.
if there's
sounds
something
good.
that's pertinent to your abutter status,
Sure.
you will be notified.
Okay,
You don't have to go searching through the town's websites looking to find out if you need to be here or not.
okay,
But
perfect.
you're always welcome.
The first letter I received said, abutters are not re-notified, and I was like, all right, I will be there tonight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
This would be who you talk to about planning board
I'll
things.
sit here and listen.
Well, hi Kathy, we haven't seen you in ages.
Hi, nice to see you again, Tim, and the board. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Please,
We've had a long relationship with
please,
this problem.
for the record, even
Catherine
though I said your
Prezcasa.
name.
Catherine Prezcasa, P-R-Z-E-K-A-Z-A, Catherine with a C,
Address as well.
27 Evergreen.
Thank you.
We've been part of this review process for all these many years and decades now. And as you know, we have a notice of decision. This was based back when this development was approved. The maintenance agreement is noticed a few times in their conditions of approval. It's on item 2 is a maintenance agreement to provide for enforcement mechanism including lien rights for the project as a whole. This project had a lot of issues with bait and switch, with different owners, different developers, different funding mechanisms, and different owners situations. It was condominium, it was private development, it was single homes, it was townhouses, it was low income, it was lots and lots of different things, and it was always, from meeting to meeting, a different scenario. And it was very frustrating for the zoning board and the planning board to know what was going to be done at the time. And that is reflected in this notice of decision, that the maintenance structure, that the subsurface drainage structure had an element for pre-treatment, and that had a filtration system. And there was certain maintenance that needed to happen on an annual basis for it to work correctly. And those were in the product specifications of their proposed solution. Now, that was really, really important for the board members to protect our waterways and that drainage outlet, essentially, that pre-treatment to make sure that all that water coming from those parking lots, from all of those units and all of those cars and all of that didn't get into that big wetland at the bottom of the site. So they have it as item number 2, and they also refer back to it in item number 5. The applicant shall submit to the town engineer satisfaction, item D, a $10,000 escrow deposit, the amount to be revised based on DPW recommendations reflecting both redesigned drainage. So that redesign happened prior to this condition of acceptance. So they're saying now that that redesign happened and therefore it's not necessary. That's not true. This was with the understanding that there was a redesign. So they knew that this was gonna happen, and the board members, specifically Jim Raymond, was saying, we need to make sure that the town's interests are protected, that if this needs to get changed or backfire in any way, if our waters are getting polluted, we have the right to, we have some money in there to do it, because we didn't want the town DPW to have to go in there as an emergency situation. We knew that because of the site plan documentation that the developer had put in, and the engineers had put in advance of the application, that the wetland level of water was within 1/4 of an inch of the outlet of the drainage. So that was a huge implication. Technically it worked, but it was, the math showed it was 1/4 of an inch lower or higher than the floodplain. So that's why the board members that were sitting in your seats at that time were so concerned about it and put that in there as an escrow deposit to protect the town's interest. And my understanding about this is if we were to allow them to not, and they were always gonna own it, whether it was gonna be a homeowners association or or a single owner, the onus of the maintenance was always going to be under that owner's situation. It was never to be maintained by the town as a public road, as public drainage. It was for an emergency because they had pushed it so much to the 1/4 of an inch of that floodplain that was to protect the town. So that's going back to when this was approved. That's why that was in there. So to take it and say we want relief from it at this point, there's really nothing that has changed from the land standpoint. It's about the ownership and the protective covenants and the drainage agreements all say specifically, this agreement runs with the land, not with the owner. It will go through, Jim Coughlin didn't do anything nice because he wanted it to run with the land. It is documented in the recorded easement documents for the drainage and for the maintenance that those agreements run with the land. And the second, so that's as it relates to the 10,000, which is now 12,000 because of inflation. The second issue I would like to discuss with you for your consideration is the conservation easement that's been recorded in the Registry of Deeds. Also refers to plan number Hillsborough County Registry of Deeds 41030 and 41031. Those require an easement, a conservation easement, to be demarcated on the land with signage and with a fence that demarcate all the wetland setback areas. None of that has happened. The signage is not there, the fence is not there, the certificate of occupancies have been issued for all of the units in Phase 1, and they're trying to get Phase 2 completed now by September, we heard, but they have not met the conditions of the first phase. And that is additional reason to say, let's hold that 10,000 for the cleaning of the filtration system on the drainage. So another thing too is we have a lot of really good people in town, in our departments, our planning boards and our review boards and our DPW, but the people change, and there are institutional knowledge that sometimes doesn't go from one person to the next. And that filtration system was really important, and now that you know about it, I hope that you'll honor that agreement that that first planning board had wisdom and knew that that was important. And then the other thing that my neighbor talked about was notification. As a matter of process, I received a certified mail today And the certified mail was dropped in my mailbox. Certified mail, by definition, is to be hand-delivered and signed by someone. Was there a relief from that requirement that they don't have to be signed?
No, but that's the,
That's the federal government.
yeah, that's the post office, we
Yeah.
have no control over
Yeah.
that.
But just as a matter of process, you should know that if it's Patty or you or
We're
whoever,
paying for certified mail.
you're paying for certified mail, and it needs to be received by the abutters by a certain time that's prescribed by RSA. We have to be notified a certain amount of time in
Was
advance.
that the notice for tonight's meeting, just came today?
No,
Oh,
the
okay.
notice that came today is about Arthur Rose, I don't know, something about they're applying for relief from,
A different application.
a different,
Oh, okay.
no, for this application, well, for this
Does it have
subject,
to do
for
with the
this
wetland
property,
permit?
it's a wetland permit, they
Okay,
want relief
yeah.
for something else.
So it's a different,
Yeah,
It's not
I
this
thought
app-
it's
not
a
this
different
app.
agenda
That's
item,
sent-
okay.
Correct,
that's
correct.
not sent from us, I believe that's sent from the state or the town clerk, I'm not sure which.
The address was Meridian Land Services,
Okay,
was the
so-
return address.
Yeah,
That's
that-
Trevor.
Yeah,
That's Trevor.
okay.
Trevor sent
You're
an
paying
email.
for certified mail to be hand delivered and signed off, and that's
So
not
let's
happening.
stick to let's get back on track here,
Okay,
please.
just, we need to know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
So, as it relates to consistency and follow-through, that $10,000 is helpful as a, tool to protect
Thank
our
you.
water. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can answer the,
What do you want to answer?
well, the wetland or the conservation easement demarcation and the fence were both flagged as missing items in the final inspection report, so we are aware of it, and the builder's been informed.
If I could just add to that, there were two phases to this project, so there were certain items that were listed as needed to be completed for phase one, and then there were other items that kind of encompassed both phases
Before they get their final.
before they get their final for phase two, and that's why those items are not completed yet, because they're not
But they've
ready
been
for
flagged.
their final. They have been flagged, and
Yeah.
they will be finished before they.
I sent them the the letter of, well, I sent it to Joanne, and she forwarded it to the letter that had all the
Yeah,
things that are missing in it.
they're aware of it. The other item I just wanted to bring to your attention is you do have a copy of the drainage maintenance agreement that was recorded in 2021. And this says within the body of this document, it says that it will, at its own cost and expense, and at all times in perpetuity, maintain in good repair and in working order the surface water drainage system as shown on said plan, including but not limited to the road and box culvert, all other roadside swales, ditches, culverts, and drainage structures, and any other surface water treatment located therein. And it goes on from there. So this is the document that's been recorded to cover the maintenance of that drainage system.
And we never had a recorded document prior to this, Scott?
No, this
This
was from the original
This is the first one that's
approval.
actually been.
Yes, and it's
Yeah,
still in
this is
place,
recorded, yeah.
and that's the document we're using.
Anybody else have anything to say? Oh,
You're gonna get both of us.
for
Cynthia
one.
Bovier, Arago Land Consultants, licensed land surveyor. So, we've been on the site, we prepared an alter plan for phase one of Woodland Village, and in doing that, we had to go through all the easement documents. So and the drainage maintenance easement, Joanne did a great job of reading it, but it also says the town has the right to go in and inspect it and then require if they see anything that needs to be fixed. So my opinion is for an easement in this drainage agreement is it's actually even better for the town, because if something appears that it's not working, the town has the right to go in and say, you need to check the storm tech, check the the infiltration basins, you know, if we see something that we see off, which is in perpetuity. So whether or not it's the current owner, it goes with the land, like Kathy said, so this really protects the town and then the wetlands beyond it, so, and that's one of the reasons why we feel to release the bond, because it has been built, everything's in, and if, Scott had forwarded, mostly all of the VHB's, review of the storm tech and the whole drainage system was prior to Scott working for the town and prior to, us being involved. I think the last one was like, it was like 222, and they had pictures with it and everything as it was being installed. And VHB said, you know, yes, it's being installed correctly and everything. And then there was a black hole that nothing was, there were no reports to the town. But between Scott and Joanne, we've done a very good job of figuring out what was going on out there with Dakota before A.W. Rose and Anagnos took over the site. So that's with regards to amending the bond, so.
So I want to ask Scott a question. Scott, are they required to file an annual report on the drainage maintenance agreement?
You know, I didn't look into that. It's typically in the stormwater report where we see that.
Well, I only asked.
I know we require it now.
This says that they're required to retain those inspection reports and then submit them on request to you, so.
Okay, yeah, it's right there.
Well, my question is, are they responsible to file a report with you on an annual basis?
It sounds like they're supposed to maintain the reports and have them ready upon request.
Well, this is the problem in my eyes, because if they do the reports and you don't get the copies to review, you don't know if there's a problem.
It says to submit the biannual, so,
Okay, so there is a clause in there to submit reports,
yes.
okay? Because otherwise, as a town employee, he would not go out to private property and just randomly inspect
Well, I mean, he needs to request them.
No, he wouldn't just go out and look at it to see if it's working, because it's not within his purview as a town employee to go on private property and inspect private drainage systems. Because there's
Well,
about
I guess it is
400
upon
of them in the
written
town of
request.
Goffstown.
Yeah.
You would only act based on a report that identified a problem, and then you would go out and look at it.
Yeah, it does say upon written request, so that would require us to request it annually.
So you just need to put a calendar in your system and
Yeah.
do it.
I'm just trying to put the onus on the owner to require reporting rather than the town employees to be responsible, to be thinking about Bog Road drainage when you've got 700 other things on your mind
Yeah,
that's
they-
actually within the town's right of ways.
We typically have the requirement now that they submit them to us.
Good, well, that's how it ought to be.
Fortunately, they hardly ever do.
Well, then there should be some penalties involved then.
You have to have staff.
We
keep
can
track
work
of
on
it.
that. Phil?
As far as the installation of the system, do we know that it was installed correctly?
Yeah, VHB was on site during installation.
Okay, I just wanted
We
to
have the
record that.
reports with pictures. There are two separate reports for when they were installing the storm tech systems. Once the drainage was complete, VHB didn't go back because we're not a complete construction oversight. We want to see the drainage go in, the erosion control, well, first the erosion control, the drainage go in, and then the final site inspection is basically how we write that, that condition of approval. So, you know, we're not out there measuring pavement thicknesses or gravel thicknesses, checking
Private land.
compaction. We want to make sure the drainage is installed per plan because it was designed by an engineer to, you know, hold back a certain amount of water or treat a certain amount of water. So if it's not installed properly, more water could leave the site and affect, you know, people downstream.
I do remember the quarter inch.
So does the filtration system match what was required?
Yeah, it was built per plan according to VHB's report.
And we're gonna get a final as-built on the whole site, right, Scott?
Yeah, I believe,
Yes,
Yeah.
so we did the first alter, we did the certified plot plans, building department has them for all the units. and of construction plot plans. And then, so now we're waiting to do the Alta, which is more title for the bank loans, but then in that process, they've also authorized us to do the as-built, which will be all the rims, inverts, pipe sizes, you know, that they were,
The as-built locations
Yes.
of those things.
so we've been hired, and Joanne was the one who told me that they're looking for that by September, and I was like, okay. Thank you very much, we'll have to get that field crew right out there. But, so we really, but it's been a lot to try to pull together, you know, the original design, and then to pull everything together, but I feel like we have a good handle on it now. With regards to a couple of the things that were said about the conservation easement, I don't know if you have that document in front of you, but just for your information, in phase one, there are 14 signs on trees as you're coming in that we located for the phase one Alta. And in the phase two, there was, I think, building H was the one that was gonna be closest to the conservation easement, so I told the field crew, see if you see any, so they found 2 there, and then there's one by the last building over there, J, but we didn't really do that whole bottom of the slope, and that's where the crews would see that. In phase one, that, we had the benefit of, the original CAD drawing of this, so we were able to take a block of the conservation easement, of the wetlands, our crews went out and we compared it, and it's absolutely where it was originally designed and to be. So I felt very confident where those conservation signs are. I might have pictures on my phone, if you want me to pass it around.
You can leave them right there.
Okay. I did turn
So
it
are
off so
they-
it didn't ring.
Very nice to offer, but we,
So I just
we trust
wanted you to know, I did check that and count that there's 14 in phase one, and my guess is, Eric Mitchell had done that original layout on the trees on the north side. He probably set all those as well. Anagnos has hired us, if they're not in, that we are to set more, and I think the plans say every 50 feet.
yeah.
So we will be, resetting those, FYI.
well, you kind of slipped in between the public hearing and an applicant presentation.
I'm really, I've
Are
been
you
working
here
with
as a
Trevor.
butter or here as an applicant?
No, I'm here,
So
actually,
before you say anything else, is there anybody else here that wanted to speak at the public hearing?
okay, there's a public.
And there is no one else
Okay.
speaking, so I can close the public hearing. So Cynthia, if you have anything else you'd like to add, we're happy to.
It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
No, I just wanted to touch base on some of those things as well, and I also like to say the notice that everybody got today, that was for the wetland permit on the utility easement, which is on the abutting lot that Trevor, designed, because when they first put in those culverts, they were too small, and Trevor redesigned, the pipe size, and it was that permit went up to New Hampshire DES this week, and so we were kind of impressed that you guys got those notices today, because we had just delivered it either Monday or Tuesday to DES. So that's what that notice was for, it wasn't for this meeting, if anybody's interested.
Is that why I heard reference to a different plan number than it's on the maintenance agreement? Okay.
So who mails
Oh.
those out? Is it DES or
We
you
do.
Okay.
We have to certified mail to all the abutters for a wetland permit.
Okay.
All right.
So so Barbara, with regards to the plan numbers, 41030 is the subdivision easement plan, that's this one. 41031 was the condominium site plan and all the development plans for this project.
So is the maintenance agreement referencing the right plan?
Yes, yes. They were recorded concurrently, so the easements, this document, that's the land plan, that's how I refer to them as a survey.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the 4131 had to do with it being a condominium, which they're not selling individual units anymore. Only one entity is owning phase one and phase two, so
Okay,
I
thank
had
you.
to figure that out too.
Anybody else for the applicants? I'm gonna ask for board members to help me with this in regards to Kathy Plaskas's question about the amount of money that was set aside. That money was, I believe, in Jim's wisdom, was put aside because you were going to have a functioning system for phase one prior to the drainage maintenance agreement ever being executed. He was looking to protect the town in the event of an emergency that we had to go out and fix it, which I argue against all the time because it's private property. They don't come and fix my septic when my septic's broken, so. So conversely, we don't hold those numbers for private developers for sites, for commercial sites or other places. So I think that was a one-off amount of money that was set aside to protect the project and the owners, to make sure the owners were there to fix it if it broke, rather than the town ending up being responsible to fix it and then get reimbursed by the developers. And I believe that was the reason why that was set forth at the time. I don't think it was ever meant to be a permanent amount of money set aside in case it ever failed 25 years from now or 30 years from now. So that's just my take on the why that money was put in, that what little I can remember about that. Okay, anybody else? All right, if we have no more testimony, board members to discuss the determination of the release of that funds, request for the release of the funds.
I just have a comment, and I guess it's really a question for Joanne. There was a change in the legal form of the ownership of this, which we as a planning board really have no control over. They have a right to make the change of ownership. It's not really our jurisdiction to say yay or nay. But this agreement to hold this money was really because it was a condominium form of ownership. So there is nothing to prevent this applicant from coming in next year and deciding they want to turn it in to condominiums. And I think that's very unlikely given the rental situation of the buildings as they stand. But is there any way in the file or to have a note that, you know, there were conditions as a condominium if it converts back that should be looked at again? Because a lot, you know, we would normally just get the legal question, and in that case, there would be a planning issue.
So in order to convert those units into separate condominiums, they would each have to have their own furnace, hot water heater, things like that. And I don't believe that they do.
They wouldn't have to have that. They could have common.
But
Well,
Barbara, isn't New
typically
Hampshire Housing
that's-
Authority involved in this project
Yes, they
with
are.
funding?
Yeah.
And don't they have requirements for who rents and who, so I don't know that condos are.
I am not saying that I think condos, I think I indicated the rental situation makes it very unlikely for the numbers, but is there, if this came forward for a change in ownership, for whatever reason, given that there is a maintenance issue, and given that I do remember the 1/4 of an inch, is there a way for you to put something in the file that says,
You can't stop anyone legally changing an ownership from one owner to the other, or a rental to a
yeah, but it would
condominium.
impact the legal review of the condo documents and the
Well,
impact
sure,
on
they'd
the
have to
town.
come before the board with the condo documents.
And that's where that would be handled,
Right.
but if we don't remember it, it will never get addressed.
Well,
Because they would just use standard.
This,
Why, you're not sticking around
this
for those
file
30
is
years?
like,
You don't think 30 was enough to begin with?
this is a very thick file. It's gone back years before I
All
got
right,
here.
I'm just voicing.
We could put something in the file as a tickler to say, you know, if this were to come back, check the
Put a sticky
maintenance.
note on the front. And then we'll-
But
But
the
do you understand what I'm
chances of that
saying? That
happening
would
are
need
pretty
to be,
slim.
the condo docs would have to look differently
Yes.
to deal with these
Oh,
things.
yeah, yeah.
And we would not you know, Scott's successor would
Yeah.
not pick
there
up
would
on
be
that.
a
I'm gonna be
they
here
would need to
forever.
have, they would need to file a
Just
floor
be there Saturday
plan,
morning, that's all that
a
matters.
declaration,
Forget
and
the
bylaws.
And it's just the matter of,
Have your wife take the key.
you know,
You'll be
20
there.
years from now, if that comes in to be converted and this board, whoever's sitting at the table is
Yeah.
reviewing it,
All right,
that's the job
I
of the
just brought
board
it
at
up
the
as an
time.
issue. There needs to be something in the file
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
fact that there are There were
Could you
conditions
please-
in regards to use of the property that need to be looked at if it's converted
I
back.
think it's a great idea. I just think that maybe you could email Joanne your thoughts and we can move on to the next application.
We have to do this.
We have a lot to do yet, so let's, somebody gonna make a motion on this, or are we gonna not do anything?
I make a motion to remove condition 5D of the approved site plan as approved on 8/9/18, with the finding that staff recommends that this approval, given that the ownership has changed and the requirement is no longer applicable.
Second.
And a maintenance easement exists on record.
Motion's been made to grant the request to remove the condition requiring a $12,000 escrow amount be maintained for the drainage system. I think that's what it was for. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay.
Questions, Shelley?
This application, what's your question? We're,
I just have a question about, does this establish a precedent that because the grounds of that removal was based on a change in ownership, is there severability in the, is there continuance of all of the other requirements that are based on the ownership and the other easements run with the property? Does using that as a grounds for granting this relief, does that establish an opportunity for the applicant to ask for
The motion
relief?
was for a paragraphs particular which references a recorded land document particular to that condition, and I made that motion with no intent for any other conditions of approval to be impacted.
Okay, great, and will that will reflect in the minutes of our meeting?
Sure, I think we just did that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
all right, so we are done with that application for tonight. And we're gonna move on to the next application, which is a conceptual site plan and lot line adjustment. Joanne, could you please inform the board what's going on?
Yes, so before you is a conceptual site plan for a self-storage facility located on the corner of 114 and St. Anselm Drive. Also Dana Plummer Road, that's where the driveway would be coming off of. This site was before the board a few years ago, when the Harvest Christian Church, I believe is their name, owned the property along 114, and Tebow Corporation owned the property on lot 32. I think the church owned 32A.
Correct.
And there was an applicant that came in wanting to purchase the land and develop it with the self-storage units. So it's similar to that project. In this case, they also want to close off the access way that comes in off of Cody Lane and do a land swap where Cody would retain that property on lot 32A-1 and the town, Tebow Corporation would retain a small piece over on the edge of his land, between himself and Cody's land.
So Joanne, explain to me, who owns the parcel that the proposed
So
units want to be built on?
Pink is owned by Tebow Corporation, and the blue is Cody.
So the Christian Harvest Church is not an owner anymore?
No,
You
so
made it sound like they were still an owner or something.
No,
I missed
so
something.
what happened was, Tebow purchased the land from the
Okay.
church.
Okay.
And then he no longer wanted to go ahead with the development, so
Okay.
he withdrew
That we had
the
looked
app-
at
yeah,
that point.
so he
All right, and
withdrew.
so the very similar blue-purple is the land swap that you're talking about. So the edge of the lot whatever it is not a straight line right now.
It allows it to square the lot up.
It
Right.
squares it up.
The,
is
the
what-
old plan had had an access coming through
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
land.
Yeah.
I
It's
remember.
just a little bit different from that older plan, but, and they've also added an additional driveway on this plan to access the self-storage units, whereas the other plan has, if you see the existing right-of-way closer to St. Anselm Drive, that was, their plan last time was to come through that access and have a kiosk at the end of it. But other than that, it's pretty similar.
I suppose I should wait for that blue curve that right now is part of lot 32
A1.
A1, that's staying with A1 or that's being transferred to?
This is 32A1
Okay.
onto here. 32A is this.
It curves over.
Okay, so it already you're not
Yeah.
creating that as
No,
a,
we're not,
okay,
no.
okay,
No, that would go away.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then, there's one other thing I should probably mention. There's, the other issue that happened the last time was that there's an old Kennedy Hill Road that comes across from the other side of the highway. And if you'll see, there's like stone walls on either side,
Yeah,
where
you can see it.
do you see that? Well, that's an old road that apparently there was something in an Old Town report from the 40s that said a portion of Kennedy Hill Road was discontinued to gates and bars. And they met with Derek on this, and Derek said that he spoke with the town attorney, and he said that discontinuing it to gates and bars is not a full discontinuance.
Right,
So that they would have to go to town meeting and have it discontinued, and they never did that. So this portion,
So there's a random class 6 portion,
Yeah.
class 6 road in there
that where
somewhere.
they would basically would be, in their way of doing what they want to do. So that would have to be taken care of as well.
Well, maybe, point out to me, if you can, what they're talking about, where the stone walls are for the class 6, because
Right here and here, so in between, this little line here, and there's no more walls after that. This is one that's.
But the assumption is it
It-
carries
it-
through.
It could, yes. We have not done an existing conditions plan yet, so.
And they were trying to figure out if
How on
at some
earth
other
does Kennedy
point.
Hill get over there? It's,
Oh, we used to go through before the bypass.
Kennedy Hill actually abuts my property. So Addison didn't go all the way down to Shirley Hill years ago. It curved over and it
all right,
went on my
I
front
just know where Kennedy
lawn.
Hill is and I can't understand.
And
how
then
it
went
got over there.
across where 114 is now, and then went up to this property. But it never, for whatever reason, they never completely
Abandoned
discontinued it. Yeah.
discontinued it.
Did they just like swap names with road? Because Kennedy Hill goes from 114
Yeah, the
to
roads' names were different
all the
back
way to
then.
Shirley, right?
That's why.
Addison was called Schoolhouse.
Oh, okay,
and
so
All
they're
right.
just different
Yeah.
names.
That's
Yeah.
all right, we'll take a lesson in history another night.
Bring that 1940 town report to the next meeting.
So, does the staff have any questions does members have any questions for staff?
Is the I remember a lot of discussion about the access. Is this proposed drive big enough or too big or in a good spot? Because I remember that there was lots of issues with that.
So.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
It's practically a town road at 24 feet wide.
Well, it needs to be two-way traffic, but what I found was our development regulations classify Daniel Plummer Road as an arterial road.
Mhm.
So that comes with some more strict rules in terms of separation. In fact, it is 200 feet from any street intersection and at least 200 feet from other existing driveways. So it's hard to tell on this plan, but LeMay's has a driveway that actually comes out very close to the property line. And then there's also two existing driveways on lot 32 So theoretically, a new driveway doesn't fit anywhere on this frontage.
Well, they-
Also, the lot, there's 300 feet of required a lot frontage for one driveway, and then an additional 300 feet of lot frontage for any additional driveway, so that would just need to be double checked. I kind of measured, and I think there's enough for 3, but obviously they'd need to be spaced differently. And then the driveway is too close to the lot line. It's required to be 10 feet, and it's less than 9 feet as it runs up along the lot line with,
LeMay.
yeah, with LeMay, so lot 33 there. So that's what I noticed with the entrance.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
And then the fire department had concerns about that there wasn't enough access between the buildings. They were providing, I think it was 23 feet, and they were looking
Yeah.
for 30 feet at
Yeah.
least.
So,
I can give you this.
Just give them the information.
the chief, so I actually had a comment about that. I went back and I looked at the self-storage facilities that were put in on Tower and Tatro, and both have 30 feet between buildings. And then these ones are 23. I had concerns with the 23 for, first of all, for two-way traffic, and most importantly, for fire access. People store combustibles sometimes, even though they're not supposed to, so the fire department needs access to these facilities, basically 360 degrees around them if they're doors on all sides. And with the 23-foot spacing, you typically see bollards at the corners of these buildings, so that'll even restrict the width more at those entrances.
2 feet.
And then there could also be building overhang that I would be concerned about, so if there's overhang over the doors, the fire trucks are taller and it may even restrict more, and then you get people in their U-Hauls that park in the middle, and you get people trying to get around. So I think that's where the 30 feet came from.
How about the, turning around the building with fire apparatus? You know, normally we get the values,
Yeah.
the turning values.
Exactly, so, I think
Like your
Chief
food.
Murray chimed in on that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And,
Scott, because
Yeah.
these aren't four-story structures,
yeah.
there's no requirement for the tower truck to navigate.
So there's no requirement for it, but our fire department, is somewhat understaffed, and they often jump from call to call. So if they're out in the tower, they're not gonna go back to pick up the engine, they're gonna stay in the tower and go to the next call. So that's where the concern comes for that,
Turning radius.
yeah, I would leave it upon the fire department to decide which truck template they want used, but
That's
that's,
where I was leading.
Yeah.
It's up to the fire department
Yeah.
to specify the truck
Exactly.
template.
Yeah.
We haven't even let the applicant speak, and we're already ripping our
I'm
chance.
sorry. You asked for my
You wanna
comments on the
you wanna
entrance
listen some
and
more, or would you like to have something to say?
No, conceptual.
So let's get you on the record with your names and let you have a little bit of,
It's kinda all my comments, so.
because I have a couple other questions, so.
Good evening, my name is Katie Weiss, I'm with Bedford Design Consultants. I'm here with Justin Defoe of Tipo Corporation of New England, who owns both Lot 32 and 32A. Joanne did a great job describing what happened in the past. So Lot 32 is the lot in the front. It's a 5-acre lot and has a right-of-way that goes through it up onto the lot in the back, which is Lot 32A, and that's about 5.3 acres. The land swap, obviously, in order to get these last units to fit, we need a little bit more land. So we're going to take this piece from the neighbors and then swap with them, and they're gonna take this piece from us. leaving a little tiny piece here that we're keeping. And that's an equal land swap, that way we still have access to Cody Ave if ever needed. I believe there's a water line that might come through there. But obviously, I don't have that information quite yet, because we haven't done an existing conditions plan.
So you said you're gonna do a land swap, but you're gonna maintain access through there?
We will have
little strip.
it's just a little strip, we're not gonna actually access it, but it will be like frontage, we'll have frontage on Cody Ave, we're keeping that frontage.
Well, how are you gonna have frontage if you swap the land?
Well,
They're just taking
No,
the
they're
blue part.
keeping the
That
white.
thing there?
Yeah.
Yes,
I should
just
have colored it purple.
conceptually,
Yes, I should
I
have colored it
don't
purple.
like
No, that's not a
leaving
very
that
good
little
idea.
strip.
This is what was proposed
Yeah.
last time, so that's why it's shown on here. It
Mm-hmm.
can certainly be changed. I just grabbed what was proposed last time from their lot line
There are
adjustment plan.
utilities through there.
Yeah.
Why
There's a
not
water
use
line.
that as the entrance?
That third narrow strip, is that ownership by you or is it easement?
It's ownership. We own, this
So-
blue is owned by us and this. And we're gonna give this to this lot so we can steal this from them.
Does it have a parcel number?
Yes, lot 32A1.
Oh, the whole.
Yes, so this,
Yeah, we'd need a lot line
yeah,
adjustment.
this is lot 32A1 and this is lot 32A1, both of these pieces here.
So technically then, Katie, the little solid line from the bottom that connects down to the stone wall doesn't even exist then, if you're gonna own that, if you're proposing to own that other parcel.
We're proposing to own this right here.
No, as you draw your line straight
Yes.
down,
Here.
that little piece of lot line, right where it come to the right, that little piece of lot line that goes parallel, that shouldn't be in there
It
if
should.
that lot is part of this lot.
I made a mistake, it should be purple as well. The same purple as this should come in, it'd be purple. I just didn't see
Okay,
it when I was
I'm gonna
coloring
leave it
it.
alone. It's only the concept.
Do you know how wide that
This
is?
is a
I think it's about 50 feet.
presentation.
Exactly, yes, we will get to all of that once we have an EC plan, and a surveyor actually does the survey. So we are proposing, storage units on the back lot. One of the reasons I believe last time that it was withdrawn from the application is because of the entrance and getting a good sight distance to the main intersection. So, one of the things that we did was move the driveway as far as we could away from that intersection. I just did a really quick ruler, and this side of the driveway is about 300 feet from here. So we have a little bit more than 300 feet to the center of that intersection. There are 9 buildings proposed in the back. They're in the exact same locations they were originally proposed, so we can certainly change the width in between them to move them, give them 30 feet if needed this time. I believe last time it was 23 that was proposed. They also, when they did their plans, they had shown this configuration working with the fire trucks, but we can show that again as well. And we will definitely look into bollards and overhangs to make sure we have the correct widths needed for all of that turning. The entrance kiosk, it's not shown on this plan because we hadn't quite decided yet what we were going to do. But the main entrance kiosk is going to be on the lot below with a few parking spaces for people to park if they would like to use the kiosk. That's where they go to buy a unit if they want to. And then the main entrance will be here where there are little tiny keypads that they can use with the gate that opens and lets them into the main site. Drainage is the same pretty much as last time. There are catch basins within the site. They go to treatment swales, one on this side and one on that side, and then to 2 different infiltration basins. And then they're held there, the water's held there, and it outlets into the right-of-way of Route 114. There is an existing DOT culvert that runs in this direction, and I believe that's where the water is going to be going. I haven't done a full analysis yet. That's what they showed on their plan originally.
So let me ask you about that. You're
Yep.
proposing the one in the upper left corner. It looks like a treatment swale, IB1.
That's infiltration basin 1. Yeah.
What is that water? Sheet flow from the parking to get into that infiltration basin? Or is it discharging down where it says CB-Q?
So the water that's going first goes into the treatment swale. So if you look on the map up here, right here is a head wall.
Yeah,
The water is coming down here and being split. Half of it's going this way into this dotted square treatment swale.
Yeah, yeah.
And then to the infiltration basin.
yeah.
There's also another tiny treatment swale here, and that's coming down and coming out into a plunge pool and then into an infiltration basin. That's what they showed last time. We may change that a little bit because we have to update it for alteration of terrain, but that worked last time.
Can I just ask, because I wasn't here last time, what was last time, was that a conditionally approved plan? Did it get final approval?
Nothing,
Was it
any
just presented?
approval strength.
It was
Okay, so it
AOT,
was-
it was approved by AOT though.
Okay, but
Did
it
have
was
that.
not.
It was far along,
Yeah.
Okay,
uh,
all right, so,
but it was not,
so
it
even
didn't
though
have final approval.
even though last time was not an approved
Correct.
No.
plan.
By this board.
By this board, but by AOT it was.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, so it's the same thing on the other side. The water splits, goes this way, and then also out this head wall, down a treatment swale and into an infiltration basin.
Does the infiltration basins have, this infiltration basin has an outfall, IB1. IB2 doesn't show an outfall, does that mean it's,
They originally just had a spillway. I don't know what we'll be doing yet.
okay, so something is gonna be an overflow mechanism
Yes.
in IB2?
Yes.
And there's a big grade change off
There
the
is.
back there too.
Yes.
That doesn't really show up.
So we've got some walls in here. I have one shown here. It's kind of a dashed wall with little triangles.
Retaining wall or
That's a
something?
new stone wall. This one right here is a proposed stone wall. It's still the wrong layer. It should look like this one. But this is a proposed stone wall as well. So this area here, the walls range anywhere from 4 to 8 feet as they go through the site in height. And that could change when we go to do our design.
I'm surprised the fire department didn't ask for second means of egress to the site too, because they did for the self-storage unit down in, behind the sports dome. There's a main entrance to that by the sports dome, and then there's another
I thought
access
it
off
was,
of the cul-de-sac.
I thought it was through Cody the last time, but I
No.
could be wrong.
No, the driveway may have been Cody, I'm talking about a second, this is only a single access site.
Oh,
There's no second access to the site, even with a gate of any kind. Like there
again, I
is-
thought it was, like an emergency access was through Cody.
I didn't
Am I
see any
wrong?
on those plans before.
Did you look at the
I
old
don't recall
plans?
seeing it.
I-
looked
yes,
at it,
definitely
but I
looked
don't
at the old
recall
plans we
seeing
had.
it.
I
I
could
didn't
be
look for
wrong.
it in.
I'm just surprised they didn't ask for it as part of their questions, because they always want multiple means of access
That
to a
was,
site
that
like
was
that.
Bill that asked a lot of those types of questions, so.
Is the existing residential use staying on lot 32? Is that?
That's-
Tim didn't comment on this plan yet, only the chief did.
Yeah, Chief Murray
Yeah.
kinda
Winged it.
hopped on after I commented.
Joanne, then would it be proper for you to seek an opinion from the fire department about second exit? So you can pass that information on?
Thank you.
And the residential use is,
This time it's gonna stay.
It's gonna stay.
Yeah, at this time, but it's something that, we're still talking about, but at this time we're considering, because there are, I think, I believe, 3 properties over there, 3 rentals.
For utilities, there's no water or septic on the site, but we will be doing underground electric next to the main entrance coming in.
So you have a note next to the existing right-of-way, it says existing concrete slab on grade covered with junk tires and debris. Does that mean that you're gonna clean that up as part of this project?
I
Or you're
don't know,
gonna- Or
it's
is
just
that
a
gonna stay
description.
there and you're gonna let us know it's there?
It's the description from the last existing conditions plan done
It's
for the
very
other company that we
descriptive,
just put on there.
Well, I would hope that if it is an accurate description of the existing slab, that it would be cleaned up as part of the project.
That's why they moved the driveway.
Yeah, so they couldn't see it when they're going into the storage unit. All right, anybody see any other comments? We don't see any snow storage on this plan, I'm sure you're gonna provide that?
Yes.
Are you gonna provide any sort of trash receptacle on site, or is that not part of the plan?
I don't believe that's part of the plan. Is that something?
You're not gonna have
No,
a,
because there's gonna be no water or septic, so there's gonna be no, we figured that probably wouldn't be necessary.
but I mean, you're not gonna have a dumpster on the site. Sometimes if you're gonna have a dumpster, we require to show where the dumpster pad is gonna be.
I
with-
feel like people would just dump their stuff in it.
Yeah,
It could
you just
be,
end up.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, that's,
Tempting.
yeah.
that's just part, if you do decide to put a dumpster on the site for the use as part of the program within this fence, we need a dumpster pad, a location, it needs to be screened and.
They may decide to do that anyways, so. Especially with storage.
The only
people
problem with
moving
that,
up.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but the only problem is that in my experience, if you go to any type of gas station or if you go to any type of car wash, it's problematic by nature. And what ends up happening is it becomes a nuisance because the next thing you know, you have crows or whatever and the trash goes all over the place and then you have the Board of Health or, you know, breathing down your neck. And I don't care how much you enclose them in an area like this, the bears are gonna get to them. I live in Mont Vernon, I'm very familiar with the area, it happens all the time. We just had Fish and Game at my house recently, in regards to that.
I don't think anybody's requiring you to put.
No, we prefer not to do
Not a
it just because.
requirement, it's, if you choose to, we need to know about it. Pat.
Right, I follow you.
Can I assume that you're not parking any vehicles as rental on this site, or not?
No, the parking would only be where it's delineated outside.
Well, it'd be a couple, like 3 or 4 spaces.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be long-term parking.
Yeah, that's what I
Storage.
No,
think you
the only
Vehicle
type of,
storage.
well, that's
Thank
one
you.
thing, just to be clear on, there's a couple of different potential uses for that, cause the term storage facility is pretty open. So now the new trend, just to be clear and transparent with everyone, is that the typical box that you see with the roll-up door, that's kinda like what you're not seeing anymore, so now it's going to climate control, kinda like a Bluebird type scenario.
Yeah.
So that's more like what you would see. So to answer your question, would there be boats or an RV parked there? Potentially, yes, because that's what those are designed for, you know, boats, people that have sports cars. they have a place-
Inside the unit.
Inside the unit, to
Okay,
clarify,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, they're gonna
right.
start to clutter and really mess
Right,
up.
no,
the
no,
fire
no, no,
department
no,
running
it would
Yeah,
have
the
to be,
last
it's
time
gonna
they
be
wouldn't
in,
allow it.
We asked because if you had outdoor storage for RVs and such, we have all kinds of oil and mitigation issues with stormwater that have to be addressed.
right.
Last time they wouldn't allow any outdoor storage of any vehicles or boats.
And if you note on the plan, I know, I'm not sure this gentleman's name, but he had said that, people have a tendency to go ahead and put toxic chemicals or
Yeah.
oil or whatever it happens to be in those units. Well, we put on the plan that that wouldn't be the case. Obviously, there's no way for us to enforce it without going into those units, but as a general practice, we would put into the agreement to say, hey, you know, when you contract and you wanna go ahead and lease a unit, then we're gonna go ahead and say, that would be in writing stipulating that no, you know, gasoline, oil, antifreeze to be stored in the unit.
If you plan any site lighting, whether it's on the buildings or on poles, we have lighting regulations you have to meet, so study the lighting regulations.
So you mentioned no.
Which I'm gonna, just as a sidelight, because you're gonna see this from 114, so I'm not gonna be happy if it looks like a UFO landing pad, even with the lighting regulations.
Do you have a certain times the lights need to be turned off by, or? I haven't looked at the,
We've been doing that on a case-by-case basis, mostly based on abutters.
okay.
Residential folks, mostly, you know, they don't wanna see the lights on all night long.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of, well, now with the LED lights, they can do timers where at like 10 o'clock it goes down to half. So
That's
it's
what
not
we
as
think
bright,
would
that
be
kind
a
of thing.
good idea to
Yeah.
consider.
Or maybe motion even, just,
You can
for,
do
you
both.
know, saying after a certain period of time, say 10 PM, whatever the number happens to be, there's motion. So if all of a sudden the fire department shows up and there's an emergency, the place is gonna get illuminated by default.
Right.
That'll be-
And I did mention snow storage, right?
Yes, you did.
So is this not going to have an employee at it, like even during
That's
comp?
the way I understand it.
Yeah, that's the trend that they're all going to right now. As I said, the concept's really, evolved in the past decade. So what you first saw when they first came out and they kinda went mainstream, you know, the box, that was just basically a cinder block box with the steel door, that really is, it's saturated, and now where it's kinda going, and more than likely, we're gonna be looking more like a Bluebird scenario, where it'd be climate control, and ultimately, it's higher end clientele. Because those, you're talking about, instead of maybe, say, $100 a unit, you're talking $300 a unit, because it's got, the guy that's got his Viper that doesn't want sitting outside of his house, but there's nowhere to park it. So
But even climate controlled with the small unit layout like that?
well, that's why, what we were gonna do is basically we're just trying to show the box, and then try to say, how many units are we gonna do, that's gonna be determined probably by what the demand is, because you can go ahead and move the walls internally, you following me on that?
Yeah.
So like, you could have, just as a number 24 by 12, or you could have like 48 by 24.
I always thought of climate controlled as a larger
Yeah, me too.
monolithic building, as
Interesting.
opposed to these smaller buildings which are more designed for,
There's two different, you can see them in both fashions, you're correct about that. I've seen them where it's just, like what you said, but then also too, you lose a privacy factor a little bit on that too. You following me on that?
Yeah, like the vault,
Right,
the vault
right,
storage where it's
right.
all open
Right.
yeah,
inside.
we also like to see, architectural drawings of what they're going to look like at some point during your, process. Dave?
Katie, you mentioned an office.
Yeah, that's not an office, it's the kiosk that you go to buy the unit, so
Okay,
it's,
so that means there's an employee there.
there's no,
No.
it's
No.
like
It's all
a
automated.
commuter,
It's
it's
all-
like a ATM
Welcome to
almost.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
No, they do
The
like
vending
a,
machine drops your key.
Yeah,
they also do like
Welcome
a
to
Zoom
the
session,
Jetson.
so like if you need any support, they actually have dial-up screens and you talk to a person over there and they let you know what's going on. Like, it's all virtual. My daughter just had one of these for her university. I went and saw it. It was a little crazy, but like, yeah,
Thank you for updating me.
yeah.
The banks are doing it because they can't hire outdoor tellers, so they're
Yeah.
putting all these automated units in and everything is transacted.
It allows them to
They're
save
home.
money too in the
Just for
process.
Smart.
referencing, then where are they
Yeah, it's
communicating
taken
to?
over.
Okay,
But you have to be determined, to be honest with you. I'll get back to you.
Can I,
these
oh, go
folks,
ahead.
Yep, I was just gonna, you mentioned that we would wanna see the, elevation renderings of the buildings. I think just in knowing the visibility of this corner, on 114, I think we wanna see it being, you know, as attractive as a storage facility could be. I think, or, preserving as much of the, I don't really know that the tree line's not great out there, but preserving existing vegetation if you need to add some screening, trying to just, you know, keep it an attractive site. meet the
landscaping plan is
regulations.
part of our requirements,
Yeah.
so that's one of the things you'll have to address.
And the one by the Shell station had to meet the landscaping we required.
Oh,
So
that-
so the one that I just went to this week, it was similar setup the way you did. I think they did a good job kind of like pushing trees up and around, because it was actually in a mountainous region. So they managed to hide the facility pretty well. You couldn't see a lot of what was going on past the kiosk.
There's also gonna be some fencing too that was noted.
And if you're gonna propose any kind of a sign, we have, also have sign regulations, you'll have to look at the sign regs.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
So it looks like this new road that would be going in would also potentially in the future service like maybe 2 or more commercial areas? Is that why you put it that way?
we just moved it as far away as we could from the intersection because we knew that that was, I don't know what their plan is for
'Cause
the rest of the
There's
lot.
areas there that could be
Yeah.
developed off of that road
He's saying
Yep,
here,
yep.
like you could make
Yeah.
that your entrance and do a commercial
Yeah.
development or something.
and on the other side too.
Yep, up here.
Obviously, you can't tell us what you're gonna do now, but we're gonna ask the questions about what you're thinking about doing based on what you're proposing now, because we have to take everything into consideration.
We haven't really talked about that, to be honest with you. We kinda just focused on this piece of it to get,
Well,
and then.
you have a lot of unused land adjacent to it as you approach this proposed area,
Yeah.
and how you're gonna access all the rest of this land to develop it eventually, it becomes germane to the discussion of the proposed road.
Nope, makes sense.
Because eventually you may wanna use that as a branch to get to the other parcels, and I think that's what the question is
Yeah,
about.
it's a good thing to think about in case we need to move the road over, if we wanna do something on the side and need more
Well,
room,
it's
we
too
should
close
think
to the
about it.
property line to start, so you are
Yes.
gonna have to move it.
I'll move it over a couple feet, yeah.
Katie, did you mention all electrical is carried?
It's gonna be all underground, yeah.
Is there a reason you're not coming off of Cody?
That'd be a question for him, I don't know what the original reason was for not coming off of Cody.
And I can answer that also, because Vinny Iacozy, and I work together, but this was actually a Vinny project, and I'm inheriting that because Vinny's actually in the process of retiring, just to be transparent with everyone, so, this is one of the projects that Vinny started, now I inherited, so some of the questions I'm just not able to answer at this time, but I do think that in regards to what we're gonna do with that, we haven't had any forethought into that piece of it. The only piece that we really were concerned about was actually just the storage units at this point, but I do understand your concern. So your concern is basically building the road to certain specs so that if we want to have future access.
Well, no,
Well, just
the
making
reason I
sure
ask
we
about
have
that is
plans.
because it
He's
doesn't
talking
meet the
about that.
driveway
okay.
separations in the regulations.
Yeah, there's a
Pretty
so
much
their
anywhere you put it
driveways-
on the
So
frontage
this, the
here.
main driveway is right there, and we're, do we have to be 50 feet, is that what you said?
200 feet.
200 feet?
Yeah. Because it's technically, it's
You
an
gotta love an
arterial
applicant
road.
who laughs like that.
So that-
Scott, that would be
My friend
them
already-
asking for a
It
waiver.
would be a waiver request, and I suppose this board could give you a straw poll on how they feel about it,
And it was 200 feet from another driveway, is that what you're
from
saying?
another driveway or intersection.
Okay, and on site, you briefly discussed earlier when you were talking about it, about a second driveway on the same site had to be a certain distance apart?
No,
No,
there's
okay.
a criteria for frontage
and number of driveways.
Okay,
So your
yeah,
first
you've got
300
frontage all
feet,
the
you're
way up,
allowed
yeah.
one driveway.
Okay.
And then for every additional driveway, you
You
need
can have
another
another
300
entrance.
feet.
And
So
that
for
may have
3
been the-
driveways, you need 900 feet of frontage.
Gotcha.
That may have been your team's idea of using an
I
existing
think they were
driveway,
using the existing one
which
for
is,
that.
which is grandfathered.
Right, except for it didn't meet the site distance, and that was the
Well,
big concern last time.
there are
so-
other issues at play here,
Yes.
but you've got to meet the criteria for separation,
It-
or
it-
ask
Okay.
for a waiver there.
Mhm.
And you have to, so what I heard, Scott, is you have to measure how far the driveway they're proposing is from LeMay's. That's what I
Yes,
heard.
the maze is the problem,
Yeah, and their existing driveways.
We're,
It's
we're
so,
we're 240 feet away from the,
yeah, but once you move it away from LeMay's.
yeah, okay, that's true,
It's
okay.
gonna get closer to
Okay.
the other one. So,
That's something you got to work out.
Who designates this an arterial road?
someone, infinite wisdom, it's, right there.
Scott is not throwing anybody under the bus.
This happened
I
in
have
the
no
forties, I
idea.
think.
It's in the
that's-
development
that's
regulations
it.
from 2015, so.
All right, does anybody else have any more constructive information for the applicant for other plan preparation for when they want to come back? First of all, does
Joanne,
anybody,
did they get
because
this?
it's conceptual, does
This?
anybody have an issue?
I gave it to her.
Okay, it has
Yeah,
their,
just
it has the section numbers.
Okay, great,
I-
thank you.
I Identified.
I'll
them,
look
so.
them up.
Just for the record, is there any opposition to a self-storage units going in on this parcel from any board members at this time for any valid reasons?
I mean, it's a permitted use in the zone.
I'm
so-
just saying, they're here for conceptual, we're here to try to help.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that there. I think I'm kind of with Barbara on the same thing. It's like so close to 114, we want to at least keep some preservation of, you know, how nice it is kind of driving up through that area. So just keep that in mind.
Anything else from board members? There's a list of all the things you have to do. Joanne has a list of all the items you have to
Yep, on the checklist.
bring on a plan
Mhm.
for review.
Yep,
And then you have to go to the TRC and
yes.
a whole bunch of other stuff.
Bedford Designs is familiar with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's outside the scope of the planning board, but you're right near St. Anselm, so you said higher clientele. I think you're actually going to get a lot more college students than you think.
Probably what they're hoping for.
I don't know if
That
that's
means
going to be
smaller
higher
units.
clientele. I'm just saying.
Baby units.
So Katie, when you design this
Their
plan,
parents are.
when you design this plan and bring it forward, the less questions that they bring up, is the better for you to
Yeah.
get things done. Don't have like 40 questions that weren't answered correctly.
Okay, all right. This is a very thorough board. Usually when I come up for a concept, people just sit and stare at me, so it's good to get actual feedback that's
Well-
helpful.
Anybody have anything else for these folks before we move on?
And that, it would be a conditional use permit for the driveway separation, because
Okay.
that's in the
CUP.
zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Do you have anything else from us that you'd like to know?
No, I think we did a pretty good handle
Yeah,
over it.
yeah,
We
we've
did a pretty good handle.
got a lot to go back
Well, we'll look forward to
and look
seeing you
at.
come back with a plan.
All right, thank you very much. Have a great
you.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a list from the action correspondence items, potential tax deed of properties. We would have to have a vested interest in why we would want to oppose a tax deed, and I don't think the planning board really has much of a request.
Why we would
I
oppose
just wanted
it?
to bring
Yeah.
3 of them
I
to you.
thought you would say why we would want to do it. If
No,
it
it's like the other night at the sewer commission meeting when David was running it. If the parcel was next to a sewer treatment plant, we would want to maybe be able to try and buy it. That's the
No,
idea.
that's
Yeah.
what I,
So the only, like, this is parcels that are being taken by tax deed, but before we
No, they
take,
have the potential.
they have
They
the
have the
potential.
potential. Most of these
select
will come
them.
Most of them will come off
and
before.
as it comes
but-
closer to the end of the year, they get,
Yeah.
gets smaller.
From my perspective, my only thought in looking at this, and I think the same time last year, 2 years ago, when we had the list, was unless there's a site that we know has like some sort of environmental contamination that we would be taking on, I don't wanna touch anything
Yeah.
with a 10-foot pole if there's a chance of any environmental contamination on any
I
of
thought
those
you were
sites.
just saying we want to take it.
No, we don't. So we don't want, so as long as,
Must be getting
I
late.
just
Well,
want,
we can get green,
I just wanna-
brownfield funds.
yeah.
I know, just wait, just bring 3 of them to your attention. The
What are they,
first one is on Woodbine Street, it's lot 15, or
33.
map 15, lot 33.
There's a vacant lot.
That's the property behind, so Woodbine is a paper road, and it's the Circle National.
Behind the Circle National Club.
But it's not behind theirs, it's behind the insulation company next to it, and then Woodbine is in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's the property behind the
It's vacant.
insulation place. Yes, it's a vacant piece of land. And at one point, we had some projects come in that were looking to
Use it.
use it, and there are wetlands back there, and I guess whoever owns it stopped paying taxes on it.
And so your concern is,
I think
It's-
one of the entities down there wanted to use the property for outdoor events, as I recall.
Yeah.
Was that correct?
No,
Joanne?
that's a different piece.
That's a different
Yeah.
Is that part of the drainage mess that's in that part of town?
Yes,
It might be.
All I can think of is Lenny Lunderville, but,
yes, it's right by Lenny's house.
okay.
Yeah.
So DPW should take a look at that lot, because the drainage in that section is, we've spent a fortune on.
It's just wet back there.
It's just wet?
Yeah. And I'm actually, I thought that the insulation company owned this parcel because they cleared it.
Does it say who the owner is?
G-Town Compound LLC.
Yeah.
That might be them. Maybe they just have a different name.
Well, why don't we just forward this to the Public Works, let them
Adam's
decide.
has seen these. Honestly, I hadn't reviewed it yet. It
What?
did get sent to me.
The next one is 8
No.
Pinard Street, which is lot, map 15, lot 220, and that's the little flooring company that's on Pinard Street, kind of near
Oh,
the
next
church.
by the bowling
It's
alley.
connected
Yeah.
to King's
Yeah.
Line.
They were on last year's.
They were, and then someone came in, okay. I know the man was elderly, and I think he was looking to sell the place, and I don't know what happened with it. And then the last one is map 6, lot 77, which is Goffstown Back Road. It's the sports dome. And I spoke with the assessor
You could
about
probably
this
make
one.
some money renting that out.
I
Have we ever gotten Severino Brothers to landscape it, or are we still holding their bond, Scott?
No, we're still holding that bond.
Yeah, I think it's time to call the bond.
I spoke with the assessor about this one, and they have never paid any of their taxes. So the taxes that they owe are from like 3 years ago.
it's a lot of money.
And they have never paid any of the
So what's the law when
taxes,
when you foreclose on that parcel and say you're taking your taxes? How many years do they have to come back and pay before you actually can deed it to someone else? Barbara?
They have to bring it current. A buyer would be responsible at a tax sale for bringing the taxes current.
And does the
The
faulty-
town can take the
Does
deed
the
for
faulty
3
tax-
years, but a buyer would need to
Does
pay
the
them
faulty
current.
taxpayer, are they able to buy it back under a
Yes.
certain period of time?
The
Yes.
town is obligated to make an offer and inform them before we auction or sell the land, they have a right to repurchase. So there is a time, but if we make that notification, there's a right to repurchase.
And do
There's a
they
time
have to
period
pay
that they
up
can
all
repurchase.
of the taxes up to making it current?
They should be paying all taxes up to making it current. In some communities, the town council or board of selectmen can agree to tax
Huh. I think this
agreements,
is a Board of Selectmen
tax payment
decision.
Well,
agreements,
this is
but-
like a huge
Yeah.
business in town, and as, you know, my other part of my job is economic development. I really don't wanna see this business go under. So I'm hoping that, you know, we could
I mean, the other thing is that the legislature, in its wisdom, without my vote, reduce the interest rate on your property taxes.
Right.
So if you're juggling the books, the town is actually one of your cheapest creditors from an interest standpoint at this point. So, you know, that's why a lot of these, when push comes to shove, people will come
Yeah.
in. So hopefully we can work out something with them on that, because that will just be a mess. 'Cause
Yeah, yeah.
a tax
When they come
sale
in
of
and ask
that
for-
property will be a
ask for a
huge
tax
So you don't have to sell it,
Right.
like, it can actually be taken over.
Right.
If you want.
And then as the landlord, you mean?
Yes, the thing that happens when you sell it is that you can only sell it and gain what you are owed on taxes.
Right, any
All the
excess
rest of
goes
the,
back.
Proceeds go to
of the proceeds go back to the person you took the land from.
Right.
Because they
They make
changed
up.
the law for
Right.
that, so you don't get extra proceeds.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to make a decision, is it worth your time and effort to put a lien on this? Because you also then stop collecting interest on it at that point in time too.
Well, then why is it fair for the fire department to respond there when someone gets hurt? If they're not paying taxes and they're not supporting our town services?
So,
It's a double-edged sword.
Because the
people in there
using it could be taxpayers.
so this is where,
Boy, is that the soft.
the Board of Selectmen are looking for
Hey, my wife
comments
plays
from
soccer. If
you.
she gets hurt, I won't.
Drive themselves to the hospital.
This is where the Board of Selectmen are looking comments from you, are the ones that we need to be concerned about, or ones that are of interest to the
Well,
town. And that's an important thing to make an assessment on, because we did meet on this the other night, you know, as part of knowing what was here, and here you guys have it in front of you,
So there's two parcels that Joanne identified for you.
I heard three.
Woodbine Street and Pinard Street.
The third was the
Third.
flooring company.
Yeah, and those are all owned by businesses.
Oh.
Yeah, so we, yes, those are all owned by businesses.
Knowing that a lot of these are gonna come off the list, people will come in and make their, payments and come off the list. If properties are taken by tax deed, what's the town's policy? Are those, businesses, because this gets to the point of, is the fire department still responding there? If the town takes that property, then the user is no longer, like Sports Dome is no longer running and offering
I think
programs
we need to
there.
refocus this.
Yeah.
We are not the policy board, we are
We're just
simply
here to make a
looking at these
recommendation.
from a planning board. And
Correct.
I guess I would make a motion that there is no comment on the list of properties except for Woodbine Street. I would like that looked at, because the drainage there has just historically been a nightmare. And I don't really know that we have any interest in the flooring company location unless DPW has some plans in the future
It's
for that
connected to
intersection.
It's connected to.
Well, but I mean, is there
King's Lane,
anything
so-
potentially in DPW's horizon for that intersection? It's
No.
gotta be pretty low
They
on the
just
list.
made it smaller.
So that would be the only one that I
Not
would
that
say
big.
from a planning perspective, Scott's
There's no
saying
left
it's
turn,
just
right
wet,
turn lane
but
anymore.
it ought to just be looked at.
Yeah.
Any
Okay.
concerns of like PFAS or anything like that in any of these, or no?
They didn't build the Sports Dome in Bedford yet. We can be concerned about that later.
So,
Well, the field doesn't get rained on, so it shouldn't leach.
Well, it's not a dome, the sporting event field.
are you going to comment about this?
Just to investigate as to whether it's useful for purposes of
Drainage.
drainage
No,
management.
I'm talking now
No,
about
I have
the
no
sports
comment.
dome.
I would
No, we're
make
not
the
making any
motion, no
comment.
comment. That's traditionally
So
what we do.
basically,
We
there's
have
one
no-
then, Barbara, right? Woodbine Street, that's the
Yeah,
only
with
one?
the only one that there's a suggestion that.
So Barbara made a motion to suggest that the Board of Selectmen take a look at Woodbine Street for
Right,
DPW.
that there's no comment on all properties but for Woodbine, which due to drainage issues in that section should probably be looked at.
Second.
Okay, motion to have no comment to the Board of Selectmen on on anything except Woodbine for the DPW drainage issues, possibilities. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, was I an official voter for this session?
Yeah, thank you for voting.
Want to put that into the record.
Well, for the record, Dave
somebody
Pierce
was
is
to
voting
challenge our
in
decisions.
the stead of Tim Searles and
I'm gonna send it
and
out to
or
the
Bear.
select board about the sports dome.
Any other business for tonight, Joanne?
I think we've done everything.
Motion to adjourn.
Yep. Nothing left.
Motion to adjourn, Phil, seconded by Colleen. Any discussion?
There can be no discussion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you. GTV, we are adjourned. Thank